On October 12th, a few days after the attack on Israel, the Biden administration, and I'm looking for the audio to see if I have it, and it doesn't look like I have the specific audio. But the Biden administration on October 12th denied Iran played any role in helping Hamas. They said there was no evidence of it. The Biden administration's denial that Iran played a role in the Hamas attack on October 12th came after a Wall Street Journal report showing there was evidence and sources who documented Iranian collaboration with Hamas. And this administration came out very forcefully and said there's no evidence of that, none. You will also note that around that time, pressure was being brought to bear to restrain that $6 billion that would have been going to Iran, and the administration was dragging its feet on that. Well, now there's a report. It dropped right at noon. In the weeks leading up to Hamas's October 7th attack, according to the Wall Street Journal now, hundreds of the Palestinian Islamist militant group's fighters received specialized combat training in Iran, according to people familiar with intelligence related to the assault. Roughly 500 militants from Hamas and an allied group, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, participated in the exercises in September, which were led by officers of the Quds Force, the foreign operations arm of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Senior Palestinian officials and Iranian Brigadier General Ismail Khani, the head of Quds Force, also attended. More than 1,400 people, mostly civilians, were killed October 7th by Hamas fighters who poured across the border from the Gaza Strip. Scores of others were kidnapped and taken back to Gaza, where they're being held hostage. Hamas attackers used aerial drones to disable Israeli observation posts and high-tech surveillance equipment. Some used paragliders to fly into Israel. Others rode on motorcycles, commonly used by Iranian paramilitary groups, but not by Hamas, until October 7th. U.S. officials said Iran has regularly trained militants in Iran and elsewhere, but they have no indications of a mass training right before the attack. U.S. officials and the people familiar with the intelligence said they had no information to suggest Iran conducted training specifically to prepare for the events of October 7th. On Wednesday, Israel's military offered some of its most blunt comments yet on Iran's role in aiding Hamas. Quote, before the war, Iran directly assisted Hamas with money, training, and weapons and technological know-how. Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, the military's chief spokesman, said, even now, Iran is helping Hamas with intelligence. The United States has said it has no evidence Iran directly was involved in planning or approving the October 7th attack. Those are some weasel words here. I need everyone to put on their big boy pants and understand what's going on here. The United States government, run by Barack Obama and now by Joe Biden, has been overwhelmingly sympathetic to Iran and had not just Iranian sympathizers, but potentially Iranian spies on the payroll. In fact, right now, an Iranian sympathizer is the chief of staff to the head of special operations in the United States Defense Department. That person still has her job despite the document leaks from Iran by Iranian opposition forces. This administration, like the Obama administration, has decided they wanted to think differently about the Middle East, and in so doing, they have emboldened our enemies and those who enable terrorism. This administration, like the Obama administration, is extremely arrogant, extremely know-it-all, and refuses to process information, look at the information, and change its mind. Now, we're told all the time that when Republicans take in information and can't change their mind, they're dogmatic fundamentalists. This administration is full of dogmatic fundamentalists who can see what happened in Israel, see Iranian militants, the Houthi of Yemen, firing missiles towards Israel. American soldiers have come under attack from Iranian militants. More than 24 American soldiers were wounded in the past 2 weeks. This administration tried to keep it quiet until they couldn't. Those soldiers, some of whom are starting to come home, they had to do it because families are going to go to cameras and say, my son was attacked by Iranians. And so only now is the administration willing to bring this stuff up. But this administration has decided it's all about the vibes, the memes, and the good thoughts. Here's the reality. Iran has wanted to kill Americans since 1979. When I was a child, Iranian-backed Hezbollah guerrillas tried to blow up my school and kill me and everyone in my school. They were not successful, thankfully. For years, academics in the United States and members of our State Department believed Iran would not work with a group like Hamas because Hezbollah and Iranians are Shiite and Hamas is Sunni. But the fact of the matter is, they're all Islamic terrorists who want to kill Jews and Americans, and despite their theological differences, they've been able to overcome them so they can kill us. And this administration is filled with a bunch of sympathizers of Iran who are undoubtedly blocking information and leaking information to Iran and have jeopardized our national security. And yet this administration and Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State, and Joe Biden, the President of the United States, would rather continue on a course towards normalization of ties with Iran and rehabilitation of Iran while giving Iran lots of money that Iran can use to fund terrorists, because this administration is convinced that if we're just nice to them, they'll be nice to us. The people who unironically put coexist and tolerance bumper stickers on their cars are now in charge of foreign policy for this country, and they're going to get a lot more people killed. 1,400 Israelis are dead because the Biden administration decided to enable, embolden, and fund Iran, and Iran used the money to fund Hamas. Anthony Blinken himself and John Kirby, the White House spokesman for national security affairs, have both said Iran always funds terrorism. And guess what happens when you allow Iran $80 billion in oil sales? What do you think they're going to do with the money? You evil idiots. And you are evil idiots because you've collaborated with the evil of Iran and convinced themselves and yourselves if you just think positive thoughts and show them good vibes, they'll turn from their evil ways. No, you are a foot soldier in the army of evil by funding the Iranians. You idiots in the Biden administration. You people have blood on your hands. 1,400 plus Israelis and over 200 hostages because you decided, you Joe Biden, you Anthony Blinken, you decided to allow Iran $80 billion in oil sales to China that you could have easily blocked, but you didn't want to block them because you didn't want to pump oil in this country because you are scared of the green agenda environmentalists and you would rather kowtow to them in China than protect American national defense and its allies. People are dead because Joe Biden was afraid Greta Thunberg would scowl at him, so he decided to fund Iran and Iranian terrorists and Iranian military operations through the use of oil. The Biden administration has blood on its hands for what happened. And to this day, they deny Iran played a role because they don't want to change course on Iran, because they are dogmatic fundamentalists who are unable to process new information and realize they made a mistake. Because the height of the arrogance of this administration, like so many in Washington, D.C., is they can never admit they were wrong, will never admit they were wrong, and will continue down the same path of wrongness till more people are dead. And now they've got an unsecured border and they're warning Hezbollah and Hamas may be coming across the border. How many more 9/11s does this country need before it gets a clue? You cannot be nice to those who fund terrorism. You cannot collaborate with them, and you sure as hell can't fund them. But that's what this administration has chosen to do.